Welcome to r/Best of Redditor updates, where OP's father-in-law wants to pleasure her in order to help her achieve spiritual enlightenment. Our next Reddit post is from r/True Off My Chest. I'm a 19-year-old girl. My partner's dad, who's 60, has been acting really off the past few weeks and has been refusing to talk about it. The other day, he was driving me somewhere and said that he wanted to talk to me about it. So, thinking it would probably help him get it off his chest, I said sure. One thing to understand about him is that he is very spiritual, very into meditation and balancing your energy and all that kind of stuff. So, it's making this very confusing and I'm very conflicted about it all. He told me that it all started a few months ago when he walked in on my partner giving me head. He said he saw my pupils dilated because I was, quote, clearly sexually aroused, and my arms were above my head, and he saw my armpit hair, and he got this overwhelming sense of wanting to, quote, bliss me out with cunnilingus. But he made it clear that he didn't want to have intercourse with me. He said that... What? He said it wasn't in a sexual way? How else could it be? But in a sensual way, because he wanted me to embrace my goddess, which is his spiritual term for inner self as a sexual/sensual being. On top of all that, he told me that my earthly goddess, my physical form, was beautiful, and that he really likes my neck and the shapes of my chest. He claims he just wants me to be confident in myself and not be self-conscious because you have nothing to be self-conscious about. You're a beautiful young woman who is more powerful than I realize, and I should carry myself around the world with that knowledge. He admitted he was ashamed for thinking what he thought and for visualizing it and everything, but that he wanted me to walk away from the conversation feeling good about myself because that's how he intended all of that to come across. I don't think he's talked about it to anyone else, and I haven't told my partner yet, partly because I don't know how, but also because I'm still trying to understand it all myself. I trust him, and I know that he wouldn't do anything to me that I didn't want. But there's just this unease that I feel around him now, and he looks at me almost like there's this secret between us, and it's really unsettling. I don't want my partner to confront him about it because what if he takes it the wrong way? Or what if I've taken it the wrong way and it was all harmless? I really don't know how I feel about it all. Obviously, I'm embarrassed that he's seen me in such a vulnerable position, and the fact that he wanted to bliss me out like that is really weird. But maybe I'm reading into it more than I should, and he's just talking about me embracing my goddess and learning to balance my energy. It's been a couple of days since the talk, and I'm so confused, and I want to tell my partner, but I just don't know how. So for clarity, OP is 19, the dad is 60, OP's partner is 19, and OP also has an older sister who's 30. Then, the next day, OP posted an update. Last night I was making tea, and when he came up to grab his mug, he brushed my hair away and was looking at my neck. It made me so incredibly uncomfortable, and I am definitely going to tell my partner. He's been saying a lot lately about how his memory isn't what it used to be, and sometimes he can't get words out when he knows what he wants to say. So I'm going to bring up that it could be some kind of health concern when I talk to my partner. Then, 2 days after that, OP posted an update. I told my partner, and they were shocked and disgusted that their dad would do or say something like that. They've been super protective of me and not let me be alone with him at all. And the only reason they haven't gone nuclear on him is because I asked them not to. He got me alone again this morning when my partner was out at work and no one else was home. And we talked about how I was uncomfortable, and it really just sounded creepy the way he was trying to justify it all. He brushed my hair away from my neck and held my face, and I said that I was uncomfortable and didn't like it, and he kept doing it and just said some BS about me needing to be more comfortable being vulnerable, and asked myself why I'm uncomfortable, and it was just a really unsettling thing, especially because he did all that while claiming he respected my boundaries. He said he wanted to consume me and talked about how he wants to help teach me how to harness and embrace my goddess. And when I told him I didn't like that, he brought up so much sexual stuff. He said that was a part of getting to know yourself and learning what you like, and it just made me feel so icky. Then, 6 months later, OP posted an update. So ever since my first post, me, my partner, and my partner's dad all talked about it, and it was awkward and horrible, but in the end, I thought that we'd resolved it, or at least came to some sort of conclusion. Since then, everything's been relatively normal. But today, my partner's dad came into my work to talk to me about everything. I work at a pretty small store, so it's quiet most of the time. In essence, he said that seeing me in that vulnerable position, receiving oral, unlocked his feminine side spiritually. He told me that he's a lesbian, but he doesn't want to change his gender or anything, and that he doesn't see me as someone he wants to have intercourse with, but as a lesbian lover. Okay, I gotta stop here. OP keeps saying partner and uses the pronoun they, so my suspicion is that OP is in a lesbian relationship with another woman, and this is why he's saying that he's a lesbian, because he thinks, oh, OP is a lesbian, so I'll just say I'm a lesbian too, that way we can be lesbian lovers together, but that's just a guess. He says that he loves my insecurities, and he loves that I have insecurities because I don't need them. That I'm very beautiful, and I have a beautiful body, and he's jealous of it. He admitted that when I gave him a hug recently, he nearly kissed the nape of my neck. But just as he was about to, he stopped himself because he realized what he was doing. He told me that when we had that big chat with my partner about everything, it hurt that I and we saw him as a dirty old man. But that if I saw him as a dirty lesbian, it'd be fine. He said that every moment that he's focusing on me, he's actually making love to me spiritually. He said that he doesn't get erections anymore. Obviously, he said not to tell anyone, and that's where I'm torn. It's such a bizarre thing for him to say to me, and I don't want to out him if that's genuinely how he feels. But it's seriously making me so uncomfortable, and I just don't know how to deal with it on my own. Also, how the F do I just say to my partner, hey, your dad told me he's a lesbian? When he said goodnight to me just now, I was alone in the kitchen and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You're so beautiful." I just kind of looked at him and didn't say anything. I've already told him my boundaries and that I don't in any way reciprocate these feelings, but he doesn't seem to respect that or understand that I'm uncomfortable because that was never his intention. And in him saying all those things, he just wants me to be confident in myself because I'm beautiful and he adores me. I genuinely don't know what to do. This is such an effing weird situation and I can't deal with it. I told my best friend and she said that it's serious sexual harassment and I need to find another place to live. After the whole nearly kissing me thing, I don't have much faith that he wouldn't actually do something or try something, and I'm so scared. I was finally at a point in my life where I was relatively happy and confident in myself, and he's just taken it all away from me. I want to change every part of myself so that he won't be attracted to me. I want to shave everything. Body hair is a fetish of his, and when I told him I wanted to shave my armpits because of him, he said, "No, don't do that. They're beautiful." And I want to get more tattoos or cover myself in scars because he likes clean skin, just because he won't find me beautiful anymore. I hate that he has this much power over me, but I just don't know what to do. Then, 4 months after that, OP posted an update. Okay, so everything was fine. I thought that we'd move past it. Famous last words, I know. He went for a walk a couple of days ago and sent me this text. "Please don't share this. The problem with me having a pancake butt combined with a muffin top is that the muffin pushes down on my pants and there's nothing to hold them up, just my slippery slide butt. So whenever I go on a walk, I'm constantly pulling up my jocks and jeans without trying to be noticed. To add insult to injury, when I lose weight, the pancake gets flatter and the muffin seems to stay the same. I'm cursed. I like pancakes on their own, but those days are gone for me. So what the actual F? How is this on any level okay? What could have possibly possessed him to think that was an okay thing to send to his son's partner? Oh, his son's partner. It's a guy. Interesting. Okay, I was completely wrong about the lesbian thing. Then he goes around the house making all these comments about how he's alone and no one cares and he's always screwing up and embarrassing himself and he doesn't deserve anything. I'm effing miserable, but it's not financially viable for me to move out right now. I don't have my license or a car, neither does my partner, and my work is a short walk from the house. So I couldn't even move too far away unless I transferred to a different store, which I don't know if I could do. Man, I really don't want to be critical of OP here because clearly OP is the victim here. This guy is a predator who is not respecting boundaries at all. But I'm really just shocked and amazed by how, naive OP is. This guy basically says, hey, I want to go down on you. It's not sexual. It's part of my religion. And she's like, well, I don't know. I mean, if it's part of his religion and I don't want to make any waves, like, girl, lady, come on. You got to figure this out. This dude is just trying to get into your pants and he's using weird pseudo, well, I just want to boost your self-esteem and bring you bliss. That's why I want to do it. Completely selfless reasons. So OP really needs to wake up that she has a predator as a roommate and get the hell out of there. Our next Reddit post is from r/relationships. I can hardly type this out because thinking about it makes me so angry. I'm a 27-year-old woman. My husband is 31 and we have a 1-year-old daughter. Earlier this year, my husband and I decided to spend Christmas with his family for the first time since my daughter was born last September. Since they live 12 hours away, we decided to stay for a few weeks before Christmas so they could spend loads of times with Annie, who's 13 months old. We arrived early like we planned and everything was great. I've had a few disagreements with my mother-in-law, Trish, who's 56 in the past, over my parenting style. She's criticized me for using disposable diapers, buying baby food from the supermarket, and not raising Annie as an organic baby, but everything else seemed fine. After a day or two settling in, my husband and I decided to pick up a few gifts from a mall about an hour away before the last-minute shopping rush kicked in. My father-in-law tagged along. Trish said that she was happy to take care of Annie. We got back a few hours later, and Annie was down for a nap on a blanket that I didn't recognize. Trish said that one of her friends dropped by and gave it as an early Christmas gift. It looked pretty old and worn, but I figured one of her hippie friends was just recycling it. The next 2 weeks were fine, aside from Trish making a point to prepare meals for Annie from scratch. I mentioned this to my husband, and he said to just let her be. Annie has mostly just been throwing those bowls of food on the floor, which is what she's been doing at the moment. Trish said that it would take her a while to get used to nutritious meals. I was getting sick of her meddling, but it was only for a few weeks, so for the sake of the holidays, I let it slide. 2 days after Christmas, Annie was really unsettled and wouldn't stop fidgeting and crying. I took her temperature and she had a fever, so I kept an eye on her for the next few days and it thankfully started to go down. This morning, she started to get a rash and blisters on her arms and legs, and I freaked out. I was packing a bag to drive to see a doctor when Trish asked where I was going. I told her Annie had a rash and I was taking her to see a doctor. Trish got a weird, smug smile on her face and told me there was nothing to worry about. When I asked her what she was talking about, she said, without even looking at Annie, that she just had chickenpox. I asked her how she could possibly know that, and she casually admitted that one of her friend's grandkids had chickenpox a few weeks ago. So she asked them to wipe a blanket over the child's arms, legs, and face and bring it to her house. At this point, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so I asked if that blanket was the gift Annie was sleeping on. She said that it was. I lost my mind. To be honest, I don't really remember what I said because I was up most of the night for 2 days checking on Annie. I just unleashed on Trish, asking what the hell was wrong with her. My husband and my father-in-law came in to try to calm things down, and Trish dug in her heels and said chickenpox was the best and most natural thing for Annie to build up her immunity. I already have a vaccination schedule in place with my pediatrician, and Annie was booked to get immunized for chickenpox at 18 months. We drove to see the doctor, who confirmed that Annie had chickenpox. He said that I'll have to cut Annie's nails short, and I might have to tape socks on her hands while she sleeps because kids that young can scratch until they bleed and that'll leave scars. On the drive back, my husband started making excuses for Trish, that she was only doing what she thought was best. I couldn't believe that he was defending her, and we fought most of the way home until I told him to stop talking to me. Annie's been scratching like crazy, and I just had to tape socks over her hands. Trish tried to talk to me when we got back, and I told her to get out of my sight. We were meant to stay until Wednesday, but I just finished packing up our stuff so that we can leave first thing in the morning. I'm so angry I can't even think. Whenever I hear Trish moving around in the kitchen, my heart starts beating faster, and I feel like going out there and grabbing her by the hair. I don't ever want to see her again, or let my daughter see her again. What can I say to make her and my husband realize the enormity of what she's done? Then, 1 month later, OP posted an update. I didn't think it'd be possible, but things got worse. I got up first thing next morning and started packing our stuff into the car. Once I opened it up, I kept the keys in my pocket since I was going in and out. Usually we use Jack's set and leave mine in my bag. While I was packing, he sat in the kitchen with Trish and my father-in-law and chatted and had coffee like nothing was wrong. Annie was mercifully still asleep, so I just gently belted her in and closed her door when Jack came out and asked if I had everything. I said that we were good to go as soon as he was. He said, okay, and calmly took out his set of keys and locked the car with it, locking Annie inside. I asked him what the hell he was doing, and he said that he wouldn't be leaving until I apologized to Trish. I think I was stunned into silence because he then took the chance to rehash what he said the previous day, that Trish thought that she was doing her best, that chickenpox doesn't kill you, and that I was making a bigger deal out of this than I needed to and making Trish feel bad. Yes, making her feel bad. All the comments from my last post were swirling around in my head, and I told him he needs to stop being a son and start being a father. He screwed up his face and said that he would always be Trish's son, and that was the point. That nobody could speak to the mother the way I had the day before, and I needed to apologize to clear the air. I felt like I'd entered some kind of weird Twilight Zone where I'd accidentally married a 9-year-old instead of an adult man. So I just asked him to open the car so that we could leave. He repeatedly refused, then walked back inside and said that he would see me in there when I was acting more reasonable. Well, I'd left my bag on the passenger seat, so he probably assumed that my keys were in there. Nope. I just waited 30 seconds, then hopped in the car and drove away. My phone blew up with a million calls from him, Trish, and my father-in-law. Eventually, my mom and my dad and my sister Jess, whom I'm super close with, called me as well. I'd briefly texted Jess about what happened the day before, but she was stunned to get the full blow-by-blow. By the time that I was on the open road, I asked her to phone Jack and tell him that he could walk home for all I care. Once Jess heard my side of the story and not Jack's, which was apparently that I'd gone crazy, frightened Trish, snatched Annie, and sped away, Jess calmed way down. Mom, Dad, and Jess offered to start driving and meet me halfway so I could switch with one of them. Oh, that's so sweet! And I wouldn't have to drive the full 12 hours by myself in one day. I was so grateful to see them that I pretty much broke down in a truck stop parking lot while I blubbered that I loved them. They all took turns driving while I had a rest. It was super reassuring to talk it over and hear that Trish and Jack are the unreasonable ones. Once we got back, I stayed at my parents' overnight, and they said that I could stay as long as I needed. The next few days were fairly tense. I was up most of the night making sure Annie didn't scratch, which she did anyways somehow. And it seemed like she just cried and cried and cried until she was exhausted. She had 5 scars on her face and a few others on her arms from scratching. I know appearances shouldn't matter, but I'm so angry that her skin is marked for life now over some stupid BS. This whole thing is something I never expected to happen. I answered one of Jack's calls only to have him start a rant that he didn't recognize the person I'd become, so I just hung up on him. He was due to come back for the start of the work year, which I wasn't looking forward to, but I figured we could make it work as long as Trish was 12 hours away. Then, at 11 p.m. one night, I got a very short and formal text from my father-in-law via Jack's phone, saying that Trish had come down with shingles and was in the emergency room, that Jack was staying there to care for her, and that he would work from their house remotely once the year started back up. Jack's been there for the past few weeks, tending to his mommy's every whim. I'm sure she put on an Oscar-worthy performance of having one foot in the grave. And according to Google, it should be any day now that her painful, crusty pustules go gently into that sweet night. A few weeks ago, I was honestly so tired and overwhelmed and in disbelief that I didn't know what to do. Now that I'm back at home with people who actually care about me, I think I'm starting to realize how lucky I am to see this weird relationship with his mommy this early on. The fact that he cares more about Trish than his own daughter speaks volumes. When he eventually comes back, I think we'll have to have a serious talk about our future together. All right, I can't believe I have to say this, but locking a sick baby in a car is, murderous. Literally, potentially murderous. That is an instantaneous deal breaker that is so much worse than chickenpox. And don't get me wrong, the chickenpox is still pretty bad, but what the husband did in this scenario it would be same-day divorce lawyer for me. That was r/slash best of Redditor updates. And if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.